Hello, and welcome to another episode of I'm a Black Woman. Yes, I matter. I have the awesome Benita Gordon here. We're here to talk all things education, parent choice, micro schools, and what it's like to be an entrepreneur in this space while making sure that we're impactful with the community. So, Benita, thank you so much for coming on board. We're so lucky to have you.
Thank you. I love this. Yes, I'm a Black woman. Yes, I matter. I'm just like, this is my logo for life now.
I feel like every Black woman should embrace it. It is self-evident that we are Black, we are women, and that we matter as human beings in this world. It's unfortunate that we have to make a statement like that, but we should take that statement and we should own it. So a few things that we have definitely got in common, which is our educator background, right? And so can we just talk a little bit about your passion and your love for education and why you feel like this is a calling for you?
So I always tell people the story, like, you hear people, they say, I played with the dolls when I was little. I didn't do none of that. I grew up in a family of educators. Our mom was a first grade teacher for several years and then transitioned into programs to help students with dropout prevention. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, all were educators. And in my head, I was like, they don't make enough money. Like we good, we middle class, but it's not enough. And so I went into school nursing majors. I applied as a nursing major, VCU, Howard, Hampton. I come from a strong tradition of HBCU family, so that was what you had to do. Yep. And so went into Hampton as a nursing major. And the Lord said no. And I literally woke up one morning and walked to the registrar's office and changed my major from nursing to early childhood education. Went back home to my dorm. I'm old, y'all, so we had to go back and call from the room on the phone. Okay. And I called my mom and dad, and they were so happy because Hampton is a private HBCU. And they were like, good, you're not about to waste our money because we knew you should be in education. And I was like, I didn't know. But I was fighting it. It was already in my DNA. And so I am a lover of education. I'm a lover of understanding the type of schooling each child needs. I grew up in a family, it's three of us. I have an older sister, Belinda, and a younger brother, Scott. We are all 5 years apart in between us. And we all are completely different and the same. And our mom and dad did a great job of understanding the learning styles we had. I am that child. I'm about to tell my age again. We had to put the timer on the oven. You have to sit here for 30 minutes, little girl, and finish this before you go to the next thing. My sister, she could be in her room. She's quiet. The work is done. She's finished before she goes to the party. I'm going to go to the party, stay up till 3 and finish the work. But my parents understood that. So that was the first time I understood that parents have to know their children to understand the type of schooling that works best for them and their learning. Our brother, he was an athlete. He was all over the place. So it took literally the village to help him. And we kind of knew that. And so that was, education was part of my upbringing. I grew up in rural Virginia. I grew up in Lawrenceville, Virginia. So I saw my teachers in the grocery store. I saw my teachers at church. My teachers were in the D9. And so they were very involved, not just with me at school, but with me in the community. And so all of that has been a part of my DNA. So when I became an educator, that's what I did. I'm coming to the football games. I'm coming to the cheerleader tryouts. I'm going to be active in the community with my students because that's just how I was raised.
I love that. And you've said a few different things that I wanted to just hone in on a little bit. So one is just a little bit about early childhood education. It's often a place that often gets overlooked when we're talking about the national landscape when it comes to education. We're really focused on kindergarten through 12th grade. But as we all know, early childhood education, which is really in the womb, right? We consider like some of the womb pieces, I think like 3 months in the womb, and then all the way going forward until about 4 or 5 years old are very critical times when we're thinking about brain development and how children are forming and socializing. and how they're thinking about the world and their place in the world, and all the spatial arrangements. I was just telling somebody that I was at my niece's pre-K yesterday. It was Meet the Teacher Day, and she's 4, so it's the parents are like focused on what the teacher is saying, and since I wasn't a parent in the room, I was the adult kind of watching the children, and I watched these 20 kids, okay, of all ethnicities, everything come together. And they, like, I don't even know if they understood each other. They were just playing. They were just socializing. They were looking at what each other was doing, and they were building upon it. And I was like, man, when I watch kids, it reminds me that we have the ability to work together to do all of these amazing things. But somehow when we get into the public school systems, a lot of that creativity is deprogrammed out of us. So I just want to talk a little bit more about what you learned in early childhood education. I think this is a great platform for just talk a little bit about brain development and some of the learnings when it comes to our younger children.
So we know that what we learn, everything is connecting. So this is where everything is still connecting. The synapses are going off, everything's firing. And so for me, I learned a lot. So I keep telling y'all, I'm pre-Head Start and I'm pre-K. We didn't have that. We had home daycares, and they were not. It was not a babysitting service. Like, we literally learned ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and we learned to read before we even entered kindergarten.
I love that.
And so and like you said, all kids different. Where I was from, we were all the same ethnicity. That part was not different, but at times our economic statuses in that one home daycare was different, but it didn't matter. When we get in here, we're going to learn together. The older kids were helping the younger kids. And when I say older, if you're 2 or 3 and you have the 4 or 4-year-old, they're all helping each other. The building upon that, and I cannot stress it enough, being the English teacher, reading to the kids. Vocabulary, and simple things. My mom would send us in the grocery store with the list and sit in the car. Now, we don't do that now. And we're my older sister's like telling us where to go, because we memorized the grocery store because we went with our mom. And even if we couldn't read, my sister was like, go get the hamburger. And my brother, go get the hamburger buns. And we knew what to do. And you start reading. My mom would leave us sticky notes around the house at a young age. We are trying to decipher. Does this say do not come in her room? Like, what is this? Are you saying you need a moment? And so all of that, when you're a young child, learning how to cope, things that our students are struggling with now, coping, learning how to manage, learning how to use our words effectively without using our hands, all of that trickles down or up. And like you said, by the time they got to me, I specialized in middle school. By the time they got to me, I realized that the years of having to be in a strict or strategically organized classroom had taken away our students' creativity and their ownership of their learning. Because you're going to learn. I'm gonna play with this Play-Doh. I'm gonna play in this sand. I'm gonna eat the sand. I'm gonna spit it back out. That's not what I want. And so that part of the learning, and as students are getting older, they are scared to fail, and we put them in a situation where they don't have the freedom to fail, and we have to change that.
I love that. And so you're coming up with a solution with your own school where people are going to have the freedom to fail, where parents are going to have the choice, where parents and students come together with obviously you and other educators to drive and take ownership of where the learning. Can you talk a little bit more about your microschool?
Yes, so we are excited. GGEC Academy Microschool. We are opening soon. We don't have a date yet, but it's soon. And the reason, like you say, I was just paying attention and listening. And I had a lot of parents who want to homeschool. And economically, that's not an option, whether they are single families, whether they are double families, partners. They just needed to be able to work. But they realized that their children are not being as successful as needed in a public, private, or parochial school. And so they were like, do you think it's something that you could do? And I said, well, I love micro schools. I love any type of schooling that's going to be a school choice. And so that's why I came up with the concept of GGEC Academy. It's a micro school. We are specializing in teens and tweens, which means you're rising sixth grade up to rising ninth grade. And what we do is we do what I call a hybrid method. So project-based learning, community-based, which means students are able to go out. We find internships for them. We find them able to shadow careers and jobs that they're interested in. But we always go keep the main thing, and the basic education of reading, math, social studies, science, finance. Our kids always want to know about how do I get this money straight, and I love it. And when you're in a micro school, we have the basics, but we have the freedom that sometimes I didn't have in class. And then sometimes I did because I didn't pay attention to the curriculum because I was a disruptor. My kids were like, I want to know more about this. So if I'm reading a story about Maya and Martin meeting, and the kids are like, we never knew about this. And they want to know more about it. I didn't necessarily have time always in my traditional school setting to allow them that freedom to investigate and learn. But in a micro school, we can turn it, okay, so let's turn it into a project-based lesson. Okay, it doesn't matter how many kids want to be. It doesn't matter if you're traditionally a sixth grader and you want to work with the eighth grader. It doesn't matter. And then one of the things we are looking at is, and if I teach a class of 25 students, all of my kids on different levels. Mm-hmm. In a micro school, all you do is take that class of 25 students out, and now I can literally teach and allow them to learn. So if you come in reading on the fifth grade level, but you're doing math on the 10th grade level, we're not holding you back in fifth grade math. For what?
Right.
If you come in and you're a sixth grader and you're ready to take dual enrollment and you want to take an AP class, okay, let's make it work. Let's make it happen. Like, while we're not here to hold you back, we're here to help fill in the gaps, and we're here to encourage you to learn. And a lot of my parents are saying that their students love to learn. They don't like the traditional school setting. And we don't want to ever make a kid not want to learn anymore.
I think that's such a good point. One of the things that I realized too in my educational journey was that there was never such a thing as kids didn't like learning. They didn't like school. And those are two different things. Right? I mean, the school is the building and it's the structure, but kids love to learn. They want to learn new things. They're curious about the world. They have interests that are interesting to them, and passions and desires and aspirations. Ever from a young age, they're aspirational. They're like, listen, if they're just crawling, like, I'm going to walk because I want to get to that thing. I'm going to go run. That's their aspiration. That's their goal. That's what you're watching in their little minds. They're like, I have a goal, right? They are fixated on whatever it is that they're looking for. And that never leaves, that never changes. The problem is within the structure that we are trying to confine. As we know, in the US especially, public school is a monolith, right? You have to go through, to your point, kindergarten, first grade, you have age cutoffs, you have these kinds of things that are very, when you think about brain development, is actually quite arbitrary because people develop at different times. What I love about what you're saying in the micro school is that it is a microcosm of really what happens once you become an adult and you're in the adult world. I'm a woman of a certain age, and I work with people who are younger than me. I work with people who are older than me. I work with people who have different skill sets than me. And that's how the world goes, right? We're all coming together for a greater good. So this is awesome because it's literally setting them up for success as citizens of the world. So can you tell folks that people are interested in maybe creating their own micro school? If they're a parent and they're like, how can I get together with other parents or see if other parents are interested? What was that process like?
So one of the first things I did was I got on the internet and got on Instagram and said, where are other people who are already doing this and who want to help? Because one of the things that people don't realize, and I think is a myth, educators help other educators.
Yes.
We don't hold it to ourselves. If I come to you and I say, look, how did you do this? How did you get that grant? Oh, we're going to help. We're going to do that. And so that's what I did. And I actually found Kind Academy, which is in North Florida. And Iman, shout out to my fellowship. And there was a fellowship. She had gotten a grant from VILA, which is one of the organizations we love because they give us grants for non-traditional schooling. And she was able to say, hey, I have enough money in my grant to get 12 people who want to open a micro school and wherever. Yes. Oh my goodness. It was so beautiful.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And it was wonderful. So 12 weeks. And I'm going to tell y'all, I thought I was in a master's class. Like I was like, oh, am I back in college? What is university? Like, what's going on? But she gave us a community, first of all, for those of us, and it was a great community. Like you said, some were parents, some were not parents, some were former educators, some were already homeschooling. Some of us were like, no, I'm coming out of the traditional classroom, but I'm never leaving education. So this is the next thing for me. And I did this fellowship and we were trained. We had questions. We had guest speakers. We had homework to all prepare us to be ready to open our schools when we were ready. Some people were open. Some people opened already and we celebrated. And we were all on different levels. There were I was the only one, of course, in middle school, but that's okay. Normally I'm the only one in middle school. That's okay. I love my middle school babies. And then some did younger. And then would open up more as the kids aged with them. I love podcasting. There's a huge podcast community of homeschooling and microschooling on there. And then I just connect with them. So I would slide into their DMs professionally and say, hey, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. And then we end up having a Zoom or a phone call and getting more information. And so that's the first thing I would do. Reach out to me. Like if you know you want to homeschool or you know you want a micro school, even if you want to do a hybrid, which is like a pod, so they only come in a couple of days a week, that's fine. At GGEC Academy, we have that. You don't have to come the full 5 days a week. You actually have the option of coming 3 days a week. And different pay scale. We have a sliding pay scale. We do use the Step Up Scholarship that the state of Florida Department of Education has available for parents and guardians who are looking for non-traditional school settings and they need help to pay for it.
I love that. Can you talk a little bit about the Step Up Scholarship just for Florida parents who might not have heard about it before?
Yeah, so and that's another thing. Contact us. We will walk you through how to do the application. So Step Up Scholarship is the new scholarship that the government, I will say it like that, of Florida released to everyone. I want to say it was either June 1st or July 1st. It is according to the income of the household of how much money you can get. It can go up to $7,500. Now, I'm going to be honest. The private school down the street for me, $7,500 not going to get you in, okay? It's $40,000 a year. Right. And I know people were like, that's not enough. But that's why you have schools like microschools. That's why you have learning pods. We are not $40,000 a year. When you go on the website, you'll see how much it is for 3 days, how much it is for 5 days. And the reality of the situation is if you really want this for your child, people have called us up and we have worked with them. We do interviews to make sure that this fits for you and your family. It is not a good fit for everyone. Like Montessori is not a good fit for everyone either. Right. And so we do that, but definitely email us or come onto the website. You could send me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn and say, Benita, this is what I want for my child. I do need some guidance. I need someone to walk through. Matter of fact, I think we just need to go ahead and maybe I'll meet up at the library and we'll do a session. And all the parents that want to come through, you don't necessarily have to come to GGEC, even though we would like you to. But come through. And there are a lot of preschools that are accepting this information. Parents who have neurodivergent students or students that have special needs. We are accepting to a certain level because of our capacity, but there are also scholarships we can help you walk you through with that. And parents don't know sometimes there's a travel one. There's a travel grant for special needs students. If they are not able to go to the traditional school or you would like them to go to a non-traditional school. And so we're able to help walk parents through all of that because one of the things I believe in is knowing your resources so that you can really find the school choice for your child or children.
Right. No, I mean, you've been a repository and a wealth of information thus far, and the fact that you're extending your knowledge and your hand to help parents ensure that they're doing the best things that they can do for their children and for their youth. And that's the other thing that I've noticed too, is that there used to be this, or there is sometimes this rhetoric that parents don't care about their kids, especially parents that come from certain socioeconomic and ethnic backgrounds. And I'm like, that's just not true. That's not accurate. They just don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to navigate a system that is not necessarily designed for them. And, forget if there's a language barrier, or to your point, there are a lot of parents who are themselves just functionally illiterate. So like they don't know how to navigate these papers, which, are oftentimes designed, I think, to be confusing and hard to follow. And feel it's like the text code, like why can't this just be simple?
And I'm glad you said that, because I we're on the same page when it comes to that. I had first started teaching in DC, Southeast at Kelly Miller. And we had a huge parent engagement. I ended up being a parent engagement coordinator in DC. And one of the things, like you said, the myth was always parents of a certain color or parents of a certain socioeconomic status didn't care. They weren't engaged. And one of the things I had to say all the time that someone had to tell me in a meeting, she said, there's a difference between parents that are striving and parents that are thriving.
Yeah.
And when she broke it down to me like that, it's like what you said, where they don't always have the time to go through all the paperwork because they need to get to work, or they need to get to sleep, or we need to fix a meal.
Yeah.
And so we have to meet our parents where as I said, look, call me. I'll meet you at Starbucks. I will meet you at the library. How can we assist you? Because it's like you said, it's not that the parents aren't engaged or involved. We literally learned during the COVID crisis, how can we engage parents now and not in the 1980s when my mom was PTA president and everybody got off work at 5:00 and the meeting started at 7? Okay. That's not a reality for us. And we need to adjust that. We need to have Zoom PTAs. We need to have a recording so that they can watch it, on their way to work, when they're riding public transportation. We need to have open house week. Like, why are we still trying to have one day?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so we really have to change that. And I love the new concept, and that's what we do in the microschool where the kids lead it. You schedule a time to come in and your child shows you his or her or their portfolio, their project. I told them, I said, invite whoever you want to invite. The mayor. Look, we don't know. She's going to say no until we ask her. Like we're going to learn how to ask people and not say no to ourselves before they tell us no. And so that's definitely getting parent engagement is essential. And there are times, especially when I'm with my middle school parents, this might be their first child in middle school. They don't really know. And things change so quickly that we all do have to be that village. I don't know how to really raise your child. That's your child. But I do know how to teach your child and be able to pull the best out of him or her. And so let's get together. Let's join forces and let's get the best out of your child. And then we'll see them blossom. Because that's the biggest thing. We won't always see the end, but we'll see the blossoming. We'll see it coming.
It is a beautiful thing. And even to this day, I still get former students who are now adults, by the way, who contact me, especially on Mother's Day. And I'm like, oh, just wish you a happy Mother's Day. I just want to say how, thing. And I'm like, there were times when we were struggling, they were high school students. High school were my babies. My favorite age and also the most contentious age, I think, to some degree. But no, that's part of the beauty of like why we love the work that we're doing in education, is that we can literally affect lives positively and sometimes, unfortunately, negatively. And as we're seeing, there's just so much things that are going on in education across the country that is calling for censorship and erasure and not allowing students, especially our Black students, to have a real identity and a real sense of pride about being Black and being American in this country. And so can you talk a little bit about why, even more so, the school choice and the micro schools are especially important now?
So even as a traditional school teacher, my classroom was a safe zone. Period. And the kids knew that's something I taught in the first 2 weeks of school. I learned your name, you learn this is our safe zone. And it's a safe zone for me as an educator. Right. This is my safe zone. And the kids realized later on because the administrators would come in and hide to do their work. And they would be like, is she observing you? I said, no, she's trying to do whatever she's trying to do. And if she sits in her office or he sits in his office, they're going to be bothered. But if they come in the room and hide in the back in the lounge chair, they're okay. And so when we open a micro school, we teach the truth and we allow the truth to be heard, learned, and understood. All truths. We do not live in a seclude. We do not allow kids to graduate and then send them to live under a rock.
Okay.
No. Are these students living under rocks? This right here that they possess all the time, this phone, lets me know that they're not living under a rock. And so why would I shelter the future? I can't do that. And I'm a proud girl from Virginia. Okay, Virginia has our own history of foolishness. But that never made me question being American. That never made me question anything. The only thing it made us question is, how do we not allow this to happen again?
Yeah. Right.
And when we start trying to decide for the next generation how they're going to feel instead of giving them the truth and allowing them to decide for themselves, that's when I start getting scared. Because we can't move forward. Yeah. You can't move forward. When you change the answer, it is a lie. Like there's no other way to say that. So and what's the one thing we tell kids when they first come? Don't lie to me. You better not be telling lies. You better not tell a tale. And then we turn around and we do this. This is what we're teaching them. We're teaching them that it's okay to lie, not ignore. We are straight lying.
Yeah.
But in our micro schools, in your home schools, in your homes, in our communities, we're going to have to combat this. We're going to have to come back and say, this is a safe zone to learn the truth and then have discussions about how we move forward so that we do not repeat. Okay? How do we learn this information? Feel the feels, because you're going to feel it. Yeah. And then how do we move forward from what we have learned? The truth. We've all done that. We have people, our dad is 78 years old. Not only did he learn the truth, he was part of the truth. Okay. Like he was part of low country Georgia where you couldn't drink out of that water fountain. So how dare you try and erase my elders, their history? Like that is literally part of my dad's history. It is a part of his being. And he didn't raise his kids up to be racist. He didn't raise us up to hate anyone. He raised us up in a very loving community. He raised us up to understand who we are as women, who we are as Black women, who we are as African Americans, Black Americans, not in just America. I've traveled the world. So who am I in the world? So when we start trying to silence, when we start trying to change history, and say that we are protecting, no, ma'am. And when you come to a micro school, we teach the truth. And we teach the truth about a lot of things. Like I said, I'm from Virginia. So one of the things I had to teach was the truth about Pocahontas and Sacagawea. Real life is not a Disney movie, people. Okay? And so when I taught that, the students were like, and then, you know what's funny? One of my girls said to me, she said, I did think it was strange that she would just want to go with them and leave her family. Like, isn't it strange? Because if you think about how we are not sheltered, but how especially ethnic girls are raised, we are very protected. And then, you know, even when we get old enough to get married, our family's like, is he good enough? Is she good enough? Like whoever you're marrying, nobody's ever good enough. And so then, and for that young lady to say that, and then she was connecting the dots. Yeah. Nobody got up mad and angry. We're not trying to fight anybody. We want the truth, because the truth then allows them to do critical thinking.
Yes.
And nobody wants a generation that cannot critical think.
I think the majority of us don't want a generation that could critically think, right? And I will say, you know, obviously to continue to teach the truth, to butt against the powers that be, takes a lot of courageousness. And, you know, maybe there's fear, but you're like, listen, I'm going to just be courageous. I'm just going to be out here. Where do you find that energy? Where do you go back to keeps you grounded in this work? Education itself is a profession of which we give a lot. And so then how do we replenish ourselves?
So I'll say one, I was probably born like this. My mom and dad would always say that I was that child. You know, the baby's born and they have to pop the baby's butt or they suck shit in the mouth. No, I came out screaming. Like I literally came out like ready, like what's going on? You want some of this? And I'm not a fighter, so let's get. I'm not gonna fight you. And then I think as a seasoned educator, that's what they call me now. I think it's so funny. Because I am like the oldest one in the room now. I have to remind the new teachers that when we say keep the main thing, that includes you. And we all love the thing about, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, but that's true. You know, I've learned to come into my classroom early and set the precedence of the day. And you have to do that. You have to stay grounded, but you also have to let the students know that you're real. I've realized over the 25 years that sometimes my students think I'm a little robot or, you know, some type of, I don't know, figment of their imagination and I don't have feelings. And once you show, and I don't mean they all in your business because it has to be, you know, we have boundaries, everybody, and you teach them that. But once you show them you have feelings and give them a little bit of who you are, then we can form a community. And in our community, then we can fill each other's cups. My kids would make me cry laughing. Like I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be teaching today. Like y'all are here cutting up. And sometimes I would just let it go. Sometimes I would just be like, you know what, let me just pull up a seed. What's going on in the world? Because they were not given that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then I started building it into my classroom dialogue. Like, let me give them time to talk. And so as educators, the reason we keep going forward and the reason we give it our all, I think is twofold from what I've seen. One, because you were raised like that and somebody did that to you. And that's how I am. That's how my teachers did not play with me. They were like, you smart, you funny, but you're going to sit your butt down. I'm going to call your daddy. Or the flip side where you did not get it. And now you want to ensure that another student does not come through who lacked what you needed because now you're going to be there for them. And I think as we look at school choice, as we look at innovation in education, educators are going to realize that I can stay out. Look, this is not a competition. We are not in competition with the parochial schools or the private schools or the public schools. What I'm saying is school choice means I want to make sure parents understand what does this child need, the environment this child needs for learning to be successful. And like you said, give the option. So as educators, I think that's our biggest thing, like exposing the students and giving them options. And that's what drives us. That's what keeps us going.
I love that. So one of the things while you were talking, I was thinking to myself, transferable skills. So you were an educator in the classroom and now you're a businesswoman. What were some of those transferable skills that you honed in the classroom that have been, that you've used for your success as a businesswoman?
Patience and flexibility. No. Those are the two, like patience, flexibility, networking. So we all know, like I have friends that started, my Memphis crew, shout out to y'all, love y'all. They started school Monday. And so, and you know, we've done the professional development, and that's part of our networking. Going to conferences, not being afraid to speak up and ask for what we need. I'm a turnaround specialist, and my Title I babies, I had no problem walking up into the building like, look, I teach the kids that need the most stuff. Where is the stuff? Like, I need it. We need it. I'll prove to you how we're going to use it. I'll send you pictures. You can come in and observe, but we need it. So those transferable skills of being patient, being flexible, knowing what I need, asking for it, thinking outside the box. And I know people like you was in the class for 25 years. Go ahead and call my principals and my old assistant principals, and they'll tell you this one. I would sit in the meeting and be like, I ain't doing that. I'm not gonna do that. But I will do this. And I think that's another transferable skill where you're able to come up with the alternative. Looking at the numbers don't lie, said the English teacher, but the numbers don't lie. And looking at the numbers and being able to shift and change and move according to that. Fundraising, when you go to a private school, we're at a charter school, when you go to a micro school, fundraising is big, and being able to write grants. That's something I learned being a traditional school teacher, and it's transferring over now. And I just think just great educators teach all the time. Like that. You. Great educators, I'll teach you in Walmart. Don't play with me. Unfold your money and hand it to I'm gonna teach all the time. And so great educators, those transferable skills come over with us. Now I will say, shout out to my coach, Miss Lassiter, who helped do my resume, and I took her classes to help. And they have a class strictly for edupreneurs. That's what we call ourselves. So you're coming out of education and you're going into entrepreneurship, because we do have to do a mind shift. Shout out to my big sister, Belinda, who's a family and child therapist. She helps me. And I'm like, she's like, no, don't say that word. Use this word. I'm like, yeah, I need to use that word from now on because I'm shifting. And it is a process. It has been a year process of me getting ready to do this. And I'm learning every day.
I love that. So tell people how we can keep in contact with you, Benita. I know I've got the website, so pop that up there.
Yeah, so that's the website, ggecacademy.org. Look, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I am on Instagram, the Edu Concierge, because that's my other business that goes hand in hand. My podcast is not this great, so I'm working up to it. But I also have a podcast called the Education Concierge Podcast. But look, I'm on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Slide into my DMs professionally, and I meant that. Okay. Send us an email. Reach out. Like I said, if you don't know about microschools or you want to understand how to get the grants and the scholarships for your own children, we are here. We are a resource. That's what my other business does. We do coaching and consulting and concierge work, which means we help you, guide you through the process, and we help educators who are trying to figure out what to do, or you in trouble and you need to keep your job. We help you do that. We help you do that too. But yes, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram all the time, or you can go under my name, Benita Gordon. Send me a message and say, hey, I heard you on yes, or I am a Black woman. Yes, I matter. And tell me, hey, I heard this, and this is, you said to call, you said to reach out. And thank you so much for having me on this platform.
Benita, thank you so much for taking the time for being here. And you gave us so many nice nuggets, wisdom. And one thing, actually, I know I was about to wrap up, but one thing I forgot to ask you was, how did you find yourself from Virginia down here in Florida? If we could just do that quick story before we wrap up.
Real quick one. I am a former military spouse. So I used to be married to a Navy guy. So I've lived in Pensacola and Tampa, Virginia, Spain, all over. Then I always had a gypsy spirit anyway. So once that ended, I still traveled. So I went to Dubai and I came back, and I went over here and I went to Memphis and I came back. But I will say that my sister married a guy from here, and I've known him since 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
And he is from Miami. And so a couple of, oh Lord, I don't know how many years now. It's been more than 10 years. They moved to Miami. And so I've come and stay a little bit and like, let me go back overseas, and then I'll come and stay a little bit. But now I'm here right now for the long haul. My family laughs at me. I'm like, I'm here for the long haul and to settle in Miami. And I know a lot of people say, you know, why did you move back to Miami as a Black woman in education in the middle of the foolishness? That's what real people do. Why would I abandon children that I know need me? And I have the skill set. And I've taught at Homestead Middle. Shout out to y'all. Love y'all. And these are my babies. These are my people. This is where I need to be. And yeah, that's how I ended up in Miami. And Miami is not Florida. Okay, it's Miami. Let's get that straight.
I mean, that's true. It's a very different beast. And, that being said, I think something that you said is so important and critical. Instead of divesting from Florida, which, we see some organizations doing, this is where the need is that we see across the country. And so it makes more sense for us to figure out how can we be a part of the solution and really pour back into the communities of which we say we serve. And we want to see them doing the best. So I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that I met you, my sister. I know we're going to continue to do impactful, amazing work, not just for our community in Miami, but for the larger Black community and across the African diaspora. Benita, thank you guys so much. Everyone, you can slide into her DMs professionally. And until next time, peace.